How did this come about? What was the birth of the idea for this workshop?
I came back from a campfish reunion, 25
The 25th reunion, yeah.
Campfish reunion. And everybody had an open mic that we were up there, and all these guys were talking about the impact fishing had in that camp on their life. And this is 25 years later. People like Rich that work for us now, there's people making a living in the industry today, and in part-time and full-time. And they were so moved, the impact that fishing had. Make a long story short, we're driving back, and Troy was really touched by this thing. You know, he says, I didn't realize, I was a kid working up here in the summers. He said, I had no idea that the impact something like this had on the lives of so many people.
Because the number of people who are still to this day in the industry is really high from that group of campfish people, right?
And he was just in shock that he says, he was there as a kid, and he says, I never thought, I'm up working summer. You guys got me up there working in the summer at camp, and life is going on. But he says, I had no idea that kind of impact that had. And then we got to that age-old question: how do you make a living fishing? These guys, people doing different things.
Try to think of all the categories where jobs are that are directly related to fishing.
And he says, well, he's asking me. He and I had this conversation going back and forth for a while, and I got to thinking about it. And I sat down on a cold winter day at home, and I start scribbling on a sheet of paper, just people that I've known all these years. And I start thinking, I knew some of their life stories to a degree. And then I started listening. I started going. It got more and more and more and more and more, and that's when I gave Newstrom a call. And he says, Tom, what do you think? Do you think something like this, the Ideas of Fishing Careers workshop? Do you think something like this would work? And we get some different speakers on that. I talked to him for about 15 minutes, and the next thing I know, he says, I'm in. Let's do this. Let's see if we can make that.
Yeah, because he's a good friend of yours for a long time, and somebody that you bounce things off of, right?
Yeah. He's got a good read for that kind of stuff. So I had a list of people. We said, let's try some categories. I listed them, and let's pick a DNR. So I took the categories and kind of thought for year one these would be good categories. And I said, let's stick with Minnesota companies, because I would think that would be the bulk of our draw, which I was. It was the bulk, but I was shocked at how much outreach it went from there after that. But so that was the
That's where it started.
The shocking thing to me is that the people came from 14 states and one province. We had people from 14 states. Further south was Oklahoma.
I don't think I knew that. So somebody came from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, two guys from Oklahoma.
Do you remember how they found out about it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Two guys from Denver. And the furthest east was Delaware.
Wow.
And the guy, and then Gussie. Gussie's camera person.
Was here from Kenora, Ontario.
From Kenora, his camera person, and then a high school teacher from Fort Francis.
Oh yeah, right across the border.
Because he was interested in the beginning these high school fishing league things. And he knew that there was a little bit going. He wanted to talk to Jason Barr, who started it here. And he went back and started one up in Canada, a high school fishing thing on Rainy Lake.
So that's really cool.
So I mean, that's what started it. And the magnitude of where these people came from. We had 28 young people, 18 or under, that were there. High school. Most of them were 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. And interesting, I'll come back to that. On these young people, two of them, Kyle and Tyler Barr that live in Brainerd, they were so motivated they started that Juice Fishing Tackle Company. And these kids, they started a fishing tackle company, a soft bait tackle company.
Right after
they were motivated by that. They did that last winter, and the first thing they did, they had a booth at the Minneapolis Sports Show and sold out of product. These are two kids, 15 and 16 years old, two brothers.
What does that remind you of?
I mean, they have a successful company. These kids they're making money off of the selling bulk soft plastic baits. They're so motivated. There was another guy stopping at the drugstore the other day to pick some stuff up for my wife in Walgreens. This younger guy comes up to me and he said, hey, I want to thank you for putting on that workshop last year. I said, okay, okay.
He was there, huh?
He was there, and with two other guys. He says, my brother and his buddy are fly rod guides in Montana now because of that workshop. And he says, we fell in love with the business. We want to make a business. These guys fell in love. He's doing something else here. He says, my brother and my buddy, they're guiding fly fishing trips in Montana. They love it. They fell in love with fly fishing. They're floating the rivers, that part of the world. He said, they love what they're doing. The other, Newstrom's kid, two kids from young guys from Grand Rapids, they were so intrigued with fisheries management. They're going to Bemidji State, which has a real good good course, and they're both going this year after they graduate. That's where they're going for fisheries management.
And being at the workshop helped them make the final decision that that's what they were going to do.
The seed was planted, and the point that was caused them to go into that direction. There was two older guys, and then there was two older guys. I don't know whatever happened with them. They were retired guys. You could tell they were pretty well to do, and they made their money in the biking industry. And they loved to fish. They love fishing, and they wanted to know what the opportunities are in fishing. What is the fishing industry? We were always intrigued. We made our money in the biking industry. We want to know more about the fishing industry. Do we open a tackle store? Do we start a manufacturer?
Oh, because they weren't done working yet. They thought they might do something else.
They wanted to look at a future. What is this fishing industry about? What are opportunities for guys like, and that's what they were there for.
That would be more of a career change type concept where an older person would.
Yeah, and they were already secure, but they loved to fish. That was their passion. And can we do more in this? How does this thing work? What's the industry about? What opportunities are there? What could we do? So that I'm trying to think of some other examples.
So how many among the just average people out there who did not come to the first fishing career workshop, how many are there out there, do you think, who it might be a small seed in their mind or something? Man, I'd love to be in the fishing business somehow.
It's got to be fairly substantial.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
And yet, taking the first step sometimes is the hardest thing, right? Because you don't have any confidence, you don't know what the choices are and stuff like that. So, and I don't know of anything else like this, like the Fishing Careers Workshop. So how valuable, how important do you think it can become?
Well, that's the thing. I think our industry, I don't think our industry realizes what we have in our industry, the potential for what it is. And
what do you mean? Like, give me a little more specifics about.
Everybody is so focused in their own that there are so many opportunities. When you tell them that I think it was Southwick that did that research, that in the state of Minnesota there's 35,500 jobs related to the fishing industry. 35,500 in the state of Minnesota.
And almost 2 million people who buy fishing licenses, I think, right?
Now we're a state that, those numbers are staggering because of the amount of water, the bait shops, the tackle store, the manufacturing companies, the size of the DNR offices, all of the things all of the tentacles that reach it. But the point is, every one of those jobs exists in every other state. Not to the magnitude you'll see in Minnesota, but it's still there. It is there. Yeah. It is there.
So that's what you're saying is that if someone, for example, is a biologist that works for a state agency, they might not think a lot about, well, there's also outdoor media, there's also working at a retail fishing shop, there's also becoming a guide.
Two of these guys are, one of them I think is working at Joe's. Don't quote me, it's either Joe's or Thorne's. That Thorne Brothers out here.
Cool.
He was like in the high 20s. He's always wanted to get me. He's peddling. He said
he wants to know what else there is
to grow. How can I grow into this?
I worked at Joe's actually when I was in.
Starting at retail like that Kolozinski. He started at this Gander Mountain. He started in Gander Mountain, then he went to Fravel, and now he's a brand manager at Humminbird. Bing through the corporate.
You have to be the right person in a lot of cases, probably in order to advance like his track. But your point is that not only is there a vibrant industry, but it can grow. And just like they talk about, for example, we want to recruit really good people to be teachers or whatever, but we also want to recruit really good people who would be successful no matter what business they go into to work in our fishing industry.
It would be a
right?
plus for everything. One of the negatives that I've seen in 50 years in this game, it is a lot of cases when you get in upper management in corporations, the upper management doesn't fish, and they don't
Right.
understand why people fish. And you've seen the decision-making process always ends up being negative. An example would be, I can tell you that somebody's attitudes working with some of these people at high corporate levels. I'm not going to name names, but I'll give you an example. Yeah, you know, they got somebody that they think that this guy was highly successful in selling potato chips. And those of us that are, and we can take this and the philosophy to selling potato chips, and you know, why hasn't it ever been done in fishing tackle? These fishing tackle, these are just hicks. They don't know that much about it. You need somebody like me that understands how to sell potato chips worldwide. They come into the company, they destroy the brand, and they're gone in 3 years. Because the way you sell potato chips is not how you sell fishing tackle. Fishing tackle in the industry, it's personal, it's the passion, it's everything. Potato chips are not passionate, they're nothing. It's a different deal. It's not there, and it's never worked. And you need to start with the foundation of somebody that really loves it. And they have to at least love it and be a part of it. And then they can grow. And a lot of these corporate positions, you have people that do understand fishing and do fish. And it helps them make the right decisions for the right reasons in a product, and are highly successful today because of that. And then you have some that are wise enough to listen to their staff. They have an organized staff where they're listening to the people, even though they don't understand it. They totally trust the people that they have hired to tell them, yeah, this is the product for this, for that, and I believe you. And they're successful because they do source it right. Yeah, you know. So all of that, here's the interesting thing. A lot of, today the challenges that we have in a lot of levels is the environment, AIS and these issues. This whole thing starts with a fish and it ends with a fish. If there is no fish, and if there is no fish, none of us got a bit. You could take this whole sheet of everybody on here and throw it away, because none of us got a job.
That's right.
Not one of us got a job if we don't have fish. And it starts with the right people have to be in the foundation of the DNR, like those young kids from Grand Rapids that I'm talking about were so excited in fishing. They wanted to go, they're going to be the future that is managing these fisheries. That's the kind of thinking that you want in there. We have to have the fish.
Yeah, you
today
do.
We're getting challenges, the AIS, all these are challenges.
Aquatic invasive species.
We got them coming out of our ears. We have to, the environmental issues are key. So we need more really passionate, caring people in that segment to make sure that the fish are there. Otherwise, and most people don't even think about that. If you're a marine industry, most of your thought and energy is, I got to pedal this boat. I got to
sell this motor.
You don't think too much about where are they going to go with it. Now they got the trolling motor on there, and they got their depth finders on there and all. Where are they going to go when they put that boat in the water?
And are they going to catch fish when they get there?
And when they go into water, are they going to catch fish? Because that's where the next sale comes back. If they don't catch no fish, that boat's going to be sold in 3 years. They're going to go buy golf clubs and go do something else. It always comes back to the fish. Always. It always comes back to the fish. And wherever we got fish of any kind in good numbers, people are there. Makes no difference what it is. Okay, wherever we're at in the country. Could be white bass here, it could be catfish here, it could be crappies here, it could be walleyes here. The bass get the glory, the muskie. Wherever this pocket is, if the fish are there in catchable numbers, there's a population of people that will spend money to come there to catch them.
And it's so fun to go do it.
Oh, and the different things that you know, we got so many different fishing opportunities that exist, and a lot of tourism. Yeah, you know, you guys, the tourism dollars that is spent in Midwest Outdoors is big money.
Yeah, it is.
And
It's a big part of the business.
It's a big part of the business. But again, the foundation of that is fish. The fish
You're
are there.
right. If
When the
there's no
tourism
fish to
comes
be
in,
caught-
we don't. There's no story to tell. Yeah. So an interesting thing. One of the group of the speakers, Newstrom and Megan Christensen, and the reason I have them from a tour, they're
And Megan is from the Grand
executive
Rapids.
director of tourism for Grand
tourism.
Rapids.
Yep, gotcha.
Their story, how this story came to be, did Grand Rapids, Minnesota, pull Bassmaster Magazine and Major League Fishing to come up there, do major television shows on tournaments in there that played all over the country, still are replaying, got an amazing amount of ink in magazines like Bassmaster. This isn't Texas, this isn't Florida, this is in Arkansas. How did they come and still come up there for other levels of things in Bassmaster and Major League Fishing, end up in Grand Rapids, Minnesota to tell a bass story?
Yeah, so
in the
you're
heart of
saying that
walleye
Megan,
country.
who works for Grand Rapids Tourism, she can speak to the attendees at the workshop and describe a little bit about what she
The
does for a
story
living.
of how they did this is amazing. The story is so incredible. And Megan come in when she talked to Tom. She had no idea when they first got contacted, and Tom said, "Major League Fishing, they're interested in."
Didn't they go to
picked up the ball.
Pokegama or something like that?
It was
one
on
of the-
Pokegama.
Yeah.
And then Bass came back up with a couple smaller venues that were up there, and it put them on the map. It put the story. This is walleye country. You're in the heart of walleye country, and they had two of the biggest bass organizations in the world come up there, and they told the bass story all over the country, and they loved it, and they want to come back. They were treated, the fishing, number one, was really good. The guys
bass
caught a lot of fish.
Yes.
The ink went back out. The stories went back out. These guys became ambassadors. Hey, the fishing up there is really, really good.
Just because everybody also knows about the bass fishing on Lake Mille Lacs, for example.
Exactly.
Another lake in our part of the country that's just loaded with bass.
In the community, the area, I don't know, one of those guys ended up buying a cabin up there. One of the touring bass pros, he loved the area so much to get away. He got a place on one of the lakes. Newstrom he'll probably tell the story. One of the guys, he loved it up there. He said the fishing is so good. It's a beautiful part of the world. And so, I mean, that's a classic example of what you have in your own backyard and you take for granted. You don't think that much about it as far as the value of a particular fish in an area, that kind of impact that somebody wants to know about this. And sometimes we just blow it away. We don't think about it, but I think that's human nature. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know. But if there's a good story there, plentiful fish, people are going to come. They want to know. They want to know where to go. That tourism segment is kind of disjointed. We get to the fishing tackle segment here, and the furthest thing from their mind is tourism. They don't think about tourism.
Destinations, right?
That's really not in their mind. And you know, the destination don't think about the industry the tackle that they have to
But
use.
it
to
should be, and
they're
I think
not
of it.
jointed together. They're distant. You know, they don't even think, you know, we're in this together. We're all a link in the chain. And those of us in the media, we kind of fit in between, or social. We got to tell the people that this is where you go. This is a good time. This is the kind of stuff you need to use once you get there.
Now you go to the store and buy the tackle.
So I mean, all these links work together. And once you start to look at the magnitude of what is there and what could be there, if we build on this and take more advantage of it, I think the opportunity is huge. You've seen that effort, they're talking 60 million.
Yes, by the American Sport Fishing Association.
I think those numbers are realistic.
Me
very,
too.
Very realistic. And
Get it up to 60 million licensed anglers within 60 months,
60
I
months.
think is the deal,
60,
right?
Very realistic numbers.
Mm-hmm.
All we got to do is tell the story a little bit better than we have, and from an industry level. Everybody's got to tell the story. And what I mean by that, this high school fishing phenomena is what I call this thing. At college, you've seen the college level. I'll tell you a story.
Just because the massive numbers are more at high school level,
way
right?
more. When I went, when Jason Barr started the Brainerd High School fishing, that thing, this was 2 years ago. It was in January when he kicked it off, and he asked me if I would come speak at this thing. Cold Friday night in Minnesota in January. He had it at the Mills Fleet Farm gun range here, in the back of the gun range. That's where he had the meeting at. And I didn't think too much about it. And I says, yeah, I'll be there. So I come roll in at 6 o'clock at night, cold evening. I pull into the parking lot. It's filled. It's filled. You know, I go and they had this big meeting. There's people sitting on the floor. They're standing all over the place. What immediately caught my attention was how many parents were there. The parents were there with these young kids. I looked and then the light bulb went off. I said, there's something here. The parents are supporting this thing. The parents care about this. And you talk, it was loaded. The parents were there in there. So you've seen, for this to work at that high school level, the parents have got to be involved because the kids can't afford to make this happen. The parents have to be there.
You're right. They have to support it
They
financially.
got to support it. And the other thing that we, as this developed now, at this level, if you look at the jerseys of some these kids when they come in, we have all the what we got is money that we could never get before. You look at this high school thing. Look at these jerseys. It's ABC's Bank down the street here. Joe's Steakhouse.
Oh, because they're
When the
willing to
kids-
support the high school teams.
The kids come in and you come to Grandpa who owns the store. Her dad, Gramps, I need $100 for this jersey. We got to put some. You can't get the money out fast enough. They're not going to the fishing industry for this money. We're getting non-endemic money on a local level. These kids are local. This is happening local. The businesses are local. That's where most of these things are local businesses.
That's
that
really
are
cool. I didn't
supporting.
realize that.
It's amazing. It is amazing. So we're getting non-endemic money through the back door at a local level to promote fishing. It's sweet. It's a sweet deal, man.
I've thought a lot about this because there's a couple lakes close to Woodbury where I live where I'll be driving out. I'm headed to go out fishing. And I pass these big fields where kids are playing baseball, soccer, softball, etc. And they're on a little designated area with like chalk lines on it and all that. And I thought to myself all the time, these kids should be able to sign up for fishing practice, for a fishing team. And the parents are, like you said, if you're a hockey player or something like that, the parents are spending thousands of dollars on equipment and ice time and all this stuff. And I was an athlete growing up, so I'm in favor of organized sports.
Organized sports, sure.
But if you join the high school fishing team and you learn the skills necessary to catch fish on purpose much of the time, think about that as a lifetime sport.
It's a lifetime. Exactly.
You can keep going until you're 100 years old and more, right?
You're investing in a long-term future with everything.
So I think
and
that
they ain't going to
you're
be
really
playing
onto
hockey.
something.
Not many of them are going to be playing hockey at 35.
No, that's right. And so
Or
then
stand the
they
chance
have to find their fishing education somewhere else, right? Or they
Right.
pick it up. And so I love what you just said about the parents being there at this meeting.
Very
in
involved.
Brainerd, and they're interested in their kids. Yeah, let's sign them up for fishing because.
And some of them have fished in the past. A lot of those, when you talk to them, they're that group that, every third year they buy a license on opening a weekend there to go with them guys. But now that the young person in their life, it could be a parent or a grandparent, in some cases an aunt or an uncle, that's seen this passion, this young person, and they like to fish. They didn't do it too often except on opening weekend. Now they're buying a license every year because
Really?
the kid, all the dominoes effects, you're seeing it move the needle. I think it's the best youth outreach program that I've seen in our sport in years. And it's targeting that 14 to 18, you could even go to 12 to 18-year-old category. That's amazing. And around there, and they're learning about the environment. They're learning how to handle fish right. They're all of the things that you need. And some of these kids, they're such good fishermen. It's amazing to get in a boat with some of these kids and see what they're capable of.
Is that right?
doing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see in there. So it's an exciting thing. That to me it is. It's something I think our sport really needed at that level.
So from an overall standpoint, how healthy do you think the fishing industry is? And you can nitpick certain categories if you want, from what you know.
Well,
how healthy is it?
Well, the marine industry, that has a lot to do with the economy is real strong, but the marine industry is going really strong. They bounce back really good. So we're selling lots of boats and motors and trolling motors and electronics that go on the new boats and a battery. And you get a new boat, you got to go buy some rods and reels to dress it out. The dominoes effect has been really good. The marine industry is quite strong. The tackle industry is the same thing. You come out of ICAST, people are doing really, really good. These tourism destinations that have a story and are telling people what the story is, are using media to get the word out to they're doing good. Those that don't are they're not using what they got. And there's a lot more of them. There's a lot of people that should be advertising in Midwest Outdoors that have a story to tell.
Don't. Yeah,
that don't.
right.
They don't know, and they don't know why they're not getting nobody coming there. and it might be white bass and stuff. All I know is probably one of the big overlooked is catfish stuff. That catfish fishery. North Dakota, maybe I think it might have been in, I don't know if it was in a Midwest or an Outdoor News article in the last 30 days. There was a comment, a paragraph from something to do, it was with North Dakota, and a quote from North Dakota Fisheries that said something to the effect, I wish we'd get way more, our catfishing is unbelievable up here.
I think it might have been Brad Durek writing in Midwest Outdoors,
that
possibly.
That might have been
because he does a
where
catfish thing for us every month.
It was probably in there, but it was the fisheries from North Dakota saying we got to do more to promote catfishing in North Dakota. We don't need no more walleye. 95% of the people want walleyes. And he said our catfish are coming out of our areas. It's like we got unbelievable catfishing in the rivers, many of the lakes and everything. And the DNR is saying
not enough people are even going to do it.
He says we got to sell this more. That was probably in a thing that Durek, that was probably where it came, but it really caught my attention. It's classic. The fish is plentiful, and they always have been up there. Look at these bank fishermen off at a river in spring when they're pike fishing, they're catching cats. And when you go back then, there's people, you can see these stringers, people are keeping these catfish and eating them. And you would pull back in these bays in spring, and they're fishing off the bank, they're catching catfish and they're eating them.
Cool.
Yeah. There is a group that are already doing it, but there's not enough because they don't know how to do it. Or they don't even think about it. Nobody told them.
So you're giving me ideas too that we need to cover that more too,
bingo.
Don't we?
We bingo. Yes. But I found that interesting that the head of fisheries for North Dakota saying we got catfish coming out of our ears. He said 92% of the surveys say walleye, walleye, walleye.
And they're overlooking.
He says we got these fish loaded here. Please, somebody come and get them. Somebody tell them that they're here.
Wow. So paint a picture for us. The average attendee who, somebody who starts to think about whether they would want to come to the Fishing Careers Workshop, a boy or a girl or a man or a woman or a father and son, father and daughter, and mother and daughter, or whatever the case may be. Tell us what they're going to do. What is their day going to be like up there?
Well, the day, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, so you got to be ready to pay attention when you get there.
Yeah, and when we sat there, that thing moved. Nobody left. The question and answer was amazing. You would get each category of speaker where they would speak about 20 minutes on their life story. And each speaker says, give me your life story. I don't want to this isn't a fishing seminar. I want you to tell your life story and how fishing impacted, how fishing impacted you. And how the adventure of life led you here. You got this job here. This is where you're at. You're successful today in what you're doing. How did you get there?
But you had to start someplace.
And where did that fire start? And how did it grow into a business opportunity? How did you get to where you're actually paying bills and making a living off of this? How did you get to do that? A lot of cases, like probably half of them, if I would started at part-time jobs. Started at retail at a part-time job. Some started part-time guiding. Then loved guiding. By the way, an interest last year, people were fascinated. A big portion of the questionnaires, they were intrigued with guiding, full-time or part-time.
So
they liked the idea.
Is that right?
Guiding.
So that's,
a lot of people were interested in that because it helps support. This helps support my passion. Part-time and full-time, that guiding thing. And just a side note, Minnesota is one of the few states that you don't need to have a guide's license. And we don't need one here.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought we had to have it.
You don't have to have a guide's license here. You do if you're on the the
You have to have the U.S. Coast Guard license.
The Coast
if
Guard
you're-
license you do. But if you don't go to, you don't need a guide. You don't have to go to a test for a guide's license.
I didn't
You
know
don't
that.
have-
So you can just hang up the
I'm gonna
shingle
be,
basically
yeah,
and
I'm
say,
a fishing
I'm a
guide,
guide.
and you're in business. And according to what Newstrom told me, and they did some checking, they said that they figure in Minnesota alone there's between 1,500 and 1,800 guides in Minnesota.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of guides.
That's how many they think, and what they said, what this state needs to do, you go tell the DNR you're always looking for funding, you should get $100 for a guide's license, and you got to go do a test and you update this thing. If you're using a resource, what's wrong with that? You can qualify
I
the
agree.
guides a little bit better, and I agree.
And
He
that's
says
what I
we
felt
should-
about fishing licenses and stuff too. You should be more than happy to buy a license to go fishing, right?
and have good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting side.
I never would have known that.
Yeah, but we
So
had
the
a lot
day
of-
goes along. So what happens at the end of the 20 minutes where the person tells his or her life?
Then we do 20 minutes question and answer, and we go with an open mic, and they start raising their hand, and usually the questions is about that career option. How did you get into that? You're feeding certain people you can see they're interested in what that person had to say. Yeah, not all. This group is. So they're.
Is it
focused
only
on it.
one going on at a time in the whole room,
Yeah.
or are there three
No,
or four
no,
like it's a
it's all
circus?
happening.
Or?
It's all you stay for the whole thing. It's not. We didn't segment this thing.
Okay.
And nobody left. It is amazing to see how they were glued to it from every age, high school kids on up to adults. And it was amazing. Notes being taken. The questions and were good, solid questions on career options. A lot on social media. Yeah, because of the phenomenon of social media.
Yeah, right.
When you have probably today, I really believe we have more opportunity today than I've seen in many years in our business. Social media's got a big part to do with that because there's jobs that were never here a few short years ago.
Right.
Brett McComas, as an example, with Target Wallet.
Yeah,
one of them.
he has a job
He has a
because
job.
he does that.
That job didn't exist 2.5 years ago.
That's
Didn't exist.
amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. Right, and that's his full-time job now.
That's
I think,
his
right?
full-time job.
Wow.
He
So
left the
give us a
banking
few-
industry and got into that.
Give us a few specifics now. The Careers Workshop is held in Minnesota. Just tell us, like, where are we going to be going, and the dates, and give me some of the specifics right off that thing.
The date is October 27th. You'll start at 8:30. It'll go to 5:30, and then we do a group photo session. Then we draw many prizes at the end, and we'll have a lot of really neat prizes for everybody. Then we get them all for a group photo session, and at the end, and people will socialize after that. All of the speakers stick around there, and people can they rub elbows with them after that for as long as they want to.
Is that right? So
And
6:30,
they all
7
stay.
o'clock at night, there's still people there talking.
There's still the speakers love it, and it was highly successful. We brushstroke real quick, and it.
Yeah,
I think
for
I could
sure.
hit a few that things.
So we would come in, if we're coming from somewhere else, we would get here by October 26th.
You got to get the night before.
Yep.
Yeah, and Madden's, which is a beautiful complex on
Yes.
Gull Lake, gave these people a great. When you go in and you look at these rooms, they're brand new. They built this place 2 years ago because of the hurricane wiped everything out of there. Every room has got a fireplace in it. I mean, they're plush. They're
Wow.
phenomenal. And if you got a group of two people that would come in, it's $60 a night for both guys. So let's say two guys come in. You got twin beds. It's $60 a night. The room is magnificent. And you can cook in there. You could do anything you want. Every one of them is facing the lake. The site is beautiful. The facility that we're in is audio visual.
Yeah, so
all
you have a
geared
nice
up.
conference center type
Conference,
room,
brand
right?
new. Their audio, all the stuff is set up right. Free lunch. The lunch is covered into the entry fee. Just a side note on this thing. I'm not going to get into detail on this thing, but we pay our speakers well. There are people
good. I didn't
that
know
we
that.
pay these speakers well to come in there. We lodge some of them to come in, and I believe you do a good job. You should get paid for the job you do. I have no problem with that.
That's great. That's
And I
great.
mean, you're pulling that caliber of speaker.
Yeah, right.
In our needs, they represent many different people in our industry. They work with many of the different main companies, big-time brand companies that everybody can relate to. Every one of these people are very successful at what they do. Give you Jeff Kolozinski. He's there to he's going to be the opening speaker. I do the intro.
Oh, nice.
And then Jeff is there on behalf of Johnson Outdoors, first and foremost.
So Minn Kota,
There's Minn Kota,
Humminbird.
Humminbird, Lake Master Cannon Downriggers.
Shannon, yeah.
And he's going to tell his story. Started off at retail, then went into manufacture, and then, brand manager at Humminbird, now and overlooking Minn Kota and all of the other brands for him. And his life story is really interesting. But he wants to talk about J.O. is one of the biggest companies in the sport fishing industry. Big conglomerate. These are the brands, some of the brands that I'm responsible for.
And he's still a relatively young guy for being in the position that he's in.
He's in the middle of his career as far as our corporate direction and goes in a company like this. And he'll talk about how they look at, how do I look at picking a pro staffer to represent J.O. There's a lot more to it, and he's going to go into what I expect, what we look for in an individual, what we look for if we're looking for an upper management or a middle management corporate inside a position. You're going to learn from real world. This
That's
is what
cool.
we expect. This is from a big company, one of the bigger companies in the business. So he's going to share that.
I don't know where else you could go and hear that exact.
No place. No, it's not been done. That's the
Yeah.
beauty. This is to give these people an understanding of what the fishing industry really is about by people that are living it, that they're living it.
Yeah.
McComas, I talked about social media,
Yes.
Newstrom, and the
Tom
tourism with
Newstrom,
Megan.
speaking of, he's a Minn Kota and Humminbird professional
Yeah, he would
as well,
be, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Right. But him and Megan are touching on the tourism end of it. Ryan DeShane wired to fish.
Oh, yeah.
We worked together for many years. Ryan went to Wire to Fish, done a phenomenal job. It's all social media. Yeah, and his story is really, really good. And how he built Wired out of, his part in Wired, how he got there, and what he does there from a creative point of view now. And Dan Johnson, St. Croix Rods.
Oh, great guy.
I says when everybody gets done hearing him speak, they're going to want his job. This guy is fun to listen to. Yeah, in 20 years with St. Croix, working on brand manager, head in sales, creative fishes tournament.
What a representative of a brand, also, right? He's really
Phenomenal
so be a good role model for people as well.
Good for the industry. He's going to share his story, their perspective from St. Croix. What do we look for in They need people. You can't believe it. We need people that we can't make enough rods because we don't have enough people. We're too small of a community. Our problem is hiring people. Lund's problem. We need people to come to work. We need qualified people to come to work.
Because they're in a small town as well, Lund.
Those are our options. Meister from the Power Lodge up here, he was one of their first employees, Jim Meister. A little bit on the marine industry, what is happening there, some of the things that what do you need in a successful marine industry? There's a whole lot of jobs. You need a mechanic. You need a boat rigger. You need somebody that understands sales. You need somebody to field phone calls. And there's women in every one of these positions at every marine dealership that needs some help. Yeah. And there, he says that all of these are job categories that we need. And there are different kind of skills in that marine to make that marine operation from day one, to sell the boat, to take care of the rigging, to do the maintenance, to follow up later. These are the people that I need in this place to make the wheels turn. And the kind of skills we're
Interesting. Yeah, that's really cool.
Jim Stewart, Raleigh and Helen's Muskie Shop. This guy, he picked a fish, a small fish, a fish that isn't nationally distributed, and made it. It's an online sales and a retail sporting goods store, all built around.
Yep, and I get their catalog and buy stuff from those guys too.
He had the dreams. He took the muskie and made an entire industry for him and the people he works with around one fish called the muskie, and they did it all at retail and a mail order catalog, and competed against all the big box stores, and done a phenomenal job. And how he targeted one little thing and built that.
That's a great point. That's be a good story to hear too.
Great detail. Yeah, the service, just like a rifle.
I hear you.
Eric, a big fish guide. There's lots of guides. We all know good guides, very talented guides, but there's guides and then there's guides.
And Eric's a good communicator as well, right?
He's done television, radio, a great speaker, works 12 months out of the year. In the North Country, waiting list on jobs. How do you do this up here and work 12 months out of the year with people and make a living in the North Country, working 12 months out of the year as a guide? Not many of them could. That's the story.
It's a good
in
point.
itself.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great story.
And it's a great story, a great communicator. Jason Mitchell is Jason's story. When he picked up where Tony Dean left off, he's seen an opera. He knew when he was a kid. If you hear his life story, he knew when he was a kid. No matter what, I'm going to make a living fishing, hunting, in the outdoor. I don't care what it takes. And
We had him on the cover of Midwest Outdoors a couple months ago. So
I know.
yeah.
Yo,
so-
you know his story.
Yeah.
But now, he's so passionate. He's so good at what he does. And I mean, he is a great representative for our sport. And he's an entrepreneur. And
He's such a hard worker too.
And he's passionate, trustworthy, reliable, integrity, all of the things that a company is. He's the epitome of what a company wants to invest in at every different
Such a
level.
good point.
And
yeah.
he's got his hands in everything. I mean, he's involved in every aspect of our sport to some degree. So he's got a real good understanding of what everybody needs, the big picture of how this whole thing works, from tourism to manufacturing to media to promotion. He gets the whole scope of it. He gets it. That's why he's that good, and he's passionate about it and loves it.
I love it.
Barb Carey, we talked about
Yep,
that.
Barb Carey.
Jeff Gustafson. Jeff, from a professional point of view, not too many people are ever going to be professional bass fishermen. However, a lot of these young kids think they can be. When Seth Feider was here, you should have looked at their faces when Seth gave them how much money he needs before the season starts. These kids thought, he told them how tough it was, how he hand them out that almost didn't make it. And he says, to start my season off, I got to have $70,000 that I put on the table. That's just the entrance fee and
Just
tackle.
to sign up for the tournaments.
That doesn't count my boat and my car. And I got $70,000 cash that I got to lay out here. And I don't know how much of that.
You're betting on yourself.
That's it. $70,000 that I got to lay on the table before I go out the door. And then I got to have a car, boat, and equipment to pull it with. You should have seen the look on when he said that number. Goes, $70,000.
I've never seen
They
half
never
of
think.
that.
See, they don't realize that this is the real world, and there are very few guys who get there. Yeah, at that level. You think of the life of a professional tournament. Not many of them can do that. Not many of them.
And there's a lot more of them who try to do it than actually stick, right? That
Staggering
last
number.
forever.
Staggering number that can make. The odds are infinitesimal. You need a lot of things really right.
And that's what I think. Don't you think it becomes a little bit of a surprise to a lot of people when they think they want to get into the fishing industry so they can go fishing?
Right. When they hear these stories, yeah.
And ultimately it kind of becomes that you are either, like we're doing, you're in the media, so your job is to communicate it. So I like to say I'm where other people are fishing a lot of times, but it's not very often that I'm actually fishing. And if you're even if you're a professional bass fisherman, truthfully, the sponsors and the companies that you represent, they're not really paying you as much on your ability to catch fish as they are on your ability to impact customers of theirs.
It's all the speaking engagements that opens the door to work with their sales staff to go work sport shows, do in-store promotions. It's all that ancillary stuff.
So you have to love it enough that you're willing to do all the other parts, right?
And that's where a lot of it falls short. A lot of guys don't want to. Again, I just pay you to fish. It doesn't work that way. Don't work that way.
In fact, Ron, your brother, tells a really funny story about apparently one time the phone rang at Lindy Little Joe, and some guy. I think you answered the phone
did.
actually.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you tell the story because you.
No. His thought, well, you pay me to fish. I'm going to represent you. Reach out to. I'm going to go fish all over. I says if that job was available, I'm going to take it.
It's mine.
That's not the way it works.
I'm the first one on the list for that job.
Yeah. The goal here. If I had to sum it up, and here is the goal. Our goal is to inspire and encourage your life path and career to pursue your dreams. That's the goal of what this workshop is. And to give you a true understanding.
The reality.
This is that's the word, the reality. From real people that have been there, are living it, and became successful at it. And we'll have there's going to be some manufacturers that are there. Last year's guests, I know a number of the speakers from last year. The alumni speakers, they're coming. Yeah, we got to know
Really?
if they're going to be
Just to
hanging
be
around there. They're going to come there. There's a lot of guys says, yeah, I'm going to come. I can't wait to come back. I had a great time. So they're just going to be hanging around to talk too.
That's
They
so
want,
awesome.
I'll bet you that half of them that spoke last year are going to be there this year.
That's
that are going to come
phenomenal.
back. They just
Wow.
want to be there.
I know that we've got it and all that, but will you go ahead and say what is the website where we can go to get more
Yeah.
information, and is there like a phone number to call, or
Right.
how do I if I'm interested in attending this October, what do I do?
If you
about
feel
it?
to get all the information you need to know what it's about, where to go, the speakers, some of the subject matter they're going to be talking about, real easy. Go punch up fishingcareersworkshop.com. Again, that's fishingcareersworkshop.com. It tells you everything you got to know.
And careers has an S on it. Fishing Careers Workshop.com.
Fishingcareersworkshop. Yeah, Fishing Careers Workshop.
So, for everybody in the audience, we so appreciate Al Lindner, you taking time to tell us about this, and we view at Midwest Outdoors, we view this as an important service. There's a lot of things that you and your brother and your sons and everybody at Lindner Media could choose to do with their time, and this is a worthwhile
We're excited
endeavor.
about the opportunity. I've been in the game a long time. I thank you for the opportunity to share what this is about. For me, on a personal note, this may be my last hurrah and my major contribution to the sport fishing industry. If I can make this work, and in the latter parts of my career, I'd be pretty thankful to have that kind of impact on our sport and get this to work on a national level to contribute to the sport that's been so good to me my entire life.
Wow, so that's how deeply you feel about
Yeah.
this and its
Yeah.
potential.
Yeah.
So awesome.
So this year, to me, it's a pivot year. That if we see anywhere near what we've seen last year, and then we'll put, but like I said, the next place I'd like to see would be very probably it's going to be Madison, Wisconsin, because I think you could target it. You just target. There's a big hub of outdoorsmen there,
Right.
and then you can look at other regions where you could hub something like that, and to see if you could take this and package it to go, the categories to go to different parts of the country is what I'd like to see, where you might be able to do 3 or 4 of them in a year. Yeah, you can go westward,
yeah,
something
right.
south central.
Into different regions that are kind of
different regions,
distinct.
and have people, the speakers from that region that fit the same job categories. You can pick the listings that are sold. You need somebody from fisheries. It's always fisheries. You need somebody in manufacturing. You need somebody from media. These are the foundation that make up this business. Yeah. What are the foundation work? We need people from the manufacturing level. We need people from the media level. We need some tourism people. We need the marine industry in there. That we need communicators.
Yeah, right. We do. We need all those things.
All of these things working together, and the thing to understand that we're all in the same thing together, and it comes back. The importance, fish drives it. It starts with fish and it ends with fish, and to understand that these government agencies at state and federal levels, that if we don't get involved to make sure that this AIS thing, all these are issues that impact that, don't blow this off. Because if there's no fish, we better all look for different jobs, because if the fish ain't there, we're all in trouble. And that whole environmental issue, and we're dealing with things we've never seen before. With climate change, all of these things, the species of fish are changing. Some are benefiting, some are losing. This is all real. It's here to stay, and how it impacts the future, it's a growing. We had these things 40 years ago, 30 years ago. These things were happening. We got it to where it is today. It's going to keep going, and there's going to be adjustment made. Some fish are going to lose, some fish are going to win. It's going to be there, but it's going to take another generation to pick up this stuff. And how do we adjust to all of this new changing world that we're living in.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that a lot more now after having hear you say that, because I hadn't truly pictured it exactly like that, and how interconnected all the different categories of jobs within the fishing industry really are.
It's so important. It's so important to when they all link together and understand the part that everybody plays, the stronger we're going to be. And that goes right to the industry too. Yeah. You know, our industry. We need people that are passionate about fishing and understand fishing and really love it.